وسهلا بكل الذين ينضموا للاستماع إلى راديو بلدي، أول راديو عربي أمريكي ويعنى بقضايا العرب في المهجر. برامجنا في راديو بلدي كل يوم جمعة من 8 وحتى 9 صباحا في بث حي ومباشر عبر WNZK راديو 690 AM. صباح الخير بلدي، صباح الخير لكل مستمعينا.
Welcome to Radio Baladi, the first Arab, Middle Eastern, and American simulcast radio show. Radio Baladi is broadcast every Friday morning on WNZK 690 AM from 8 until 9 Eastern Time on Good Morning, Michigan. Our call-in number 248-557-3300. And now, stay tuned for the best radio talk show on Arab and American issues.
The U.S. Arab Radio Network is the largest Arab and Muslim radio network in America, broadcasting throughout the Midwest region Monday through Friday on WNZK AM 690. U.S. Arab Radio features Arabic and English language programming on every topic, from health, food, and culture to government, politics, and legal issues. Listen live to U.S. Arab Radio in Michigan, Toledo, Ohio, and Windsor, Canada on WNZK AM 690. And in Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia on WDMV 700 AM. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok. So join us every day on the U.S. Arab Radio Network and check out our website at www.arabradio.us.
All right. Welcome to this week's episode of Two Guys on Politics with co-host former Illinois Congressman Bill Lipinski and myself, columnist with the Southwest News newspaper group, who every week with Bill, we do this discussion about what's happening in local politics, national politics, and around the world. It is August 8th, 2025, and this is season 4, episode 21. Our website is twoguysonpolitics.com. We have 2 segments that are coming up, as we always do. First, in segment 1, we're going to talk about Netanyahu's and Israel's policies in Gaza. He says he wants to take over Gaza and then turn it over to other Arab states. And then Bill Lipinski is going to talk about, in his column this week, he's going to talk about when he first joined the Democratic organization in Chicago and what has happened to it since in the subsequent years. In segment 2, we're going to talk about the U.S. Census, which unbelievably, and I didn't know this, and I'm not sure Bill didn't know it either, but the census counts people who are not American citizens, illegal aliens, people who are here illegally, and that count actually impacts the size of congressional districts, services, and all kinds of things that obviously is wrong. My column that we'll talk about in segment 2 is about how some candidates in the race to succeed U.S. Senator Dick Durbin talk about themselves, their names, where they grew up, but they have no plans that they detail on how they're going to resolve the big issues. So we will talk about the big issues and see what happens. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with our program.
A car accident can change your life in an instant. As a result of a car accident, you may become unemployed. As a result of a car accident, you may need a lot of medical treatment. People think that insurance companies are on their side. Why? Because they're giving them 1 or 2 benefits. Are they giving them all the benefits they deserve? How would one know unless you consult with an attorney? Call the law offices of Jumana Kiruz at 248-557-3645. 248-557-3645.
With more than 30,000 successful in vitro fertilizations, IVF Michigan is now ranked as one of America's best fertility clinics according to Newsweek magazine. IVF Michigan fertility centers are the recognized leaders in high-quality fertility care. With locations in Bloomfield Hills and 9 other cities in Michigan and Ohio, IVF has experts in all aspects of the field. A founding member, American board-certified Dr. Nicholas Shama, is one of the leading reproductive endocrinologists in Michigan and Ohio. He has performed over 20,000 successful IVF cases, and it's helped thousands of couples fulfill their dreams of parenthood. When it's time to get personalized care from Dr. Nicholas Shama at one of America's best fertility clinics, call IVF Michigan Fertility Centers in Michigan and Ohio toll-free at 855-952-9600. 855-952-9600.
Okay, let's see. 3 orange folders, 2 blue folders, 1 white gym shirt, 1 box of 24 crayons.
Before you get started on that back-to-school list, get caught up on this one.
Measles, mumps, rubella vaccine, polio vaccine, chickenpox vaccine.
Protect your child from disease outbreaks. See a healthcare provider to get them up to date on vaccines and visit ivaccinate.org to learn more. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the Franny Strong Foundation.
And welcome back to Two Guys on Politics. I'm Ray Hanania.
I'm Bill Lipinski, and it's a pleasure to be with you once again, Ray.
And me too. It's always each week you and I try to kind of dice up the issues and analyze them and talk about them and see what's going on. But so the latest news out of the Middle East, right, is Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu wants to take over Gaza, and then he'll occupy it, and then obviously he says he wants to get rid of Hamas, and then he'll turn it over to other Arab states to control. What do we know about this plan? And what do you think of it?
Well, the only thing I can add to this is that he also said that Israel would put up a perimeter around Gaza, to protect itself from any future attacks out of Gaza, which is fine. But by the same token, if he can find a Arab country or two that would be willing to police Gaza, take over Gaza, why should he be concerned about one of those friendly Arab countries launching any kind of attacks upon Israel? So I'm a little bit concerned about that. I'm also concerned about the fact that he just keeps this war going and going and going. When do we get to the point where he says, or some objective organization said, Hamas has been eliminated? And is it possible to eliminate Hamas? Or is it something that many of the people in Gaza believe in, and no matter what happens to its leadership, will the people accept the loss of the leadership and go in a different direction, or will they find new leaders for Hamas? I don't know the answer to those questions. I hope that someone that's as knowledgeable about the Middle East as you may not have answers to it, but maybe you could shed a little light on it. First of all, can he find some Arab countries to govern, police Gaza when the Israelis withdraw?
Listen, first of all, I think, I agree. I've always believed Hamas was a terrorist organization. But again, I also believe that Benjamin Netanyahu's government, the current one, with these religious right-wing fanatics, who openly say we need to kill all the Arabs and wipe them off the face of the earth. I think his government is a terrorist government. And I think these two forces have been using violence to achieve their goals. They believe that violence is the only way to get things done. And that, to me, is driven by religion. If you're secular, you believe in compromise. But if you're driven by religion, which Hamas is and which Netanyahu's government is, it's controlled by the religious parties, they don't believe in compromise. They believe in divine rule and divine mission, and they need to just destroy the other side. And we've had peace in the past, and both sides have violated the peace, Hamas and Netanyahu. The problem is that the non-extremist elements, they haven't been able to stand up to take over Israel's government, to take over Gaza. Hamas feeds on the suffering, the violence that Israel, attacks. Remember, Israel used to occupy Gaza. They withdrew in 2005, but they didn't withdraw and say, hey, here, do what you want to do. They withdrew to the border, built a wall around Gaza, and they control electricity, water, food, and travel. You can't go in there if the Israelis don't want you to go in there. And you can't get food if the Israelis don't want you to get food. You can't get electricity. You can't get Wi-Fi if the Israelis don't want you to. They even control the Egyptian side of Gaza, which tells you that they have complete control. So they've never allowed the Palestinians to try to build their own society. It's been a shooting gallery. And every time the Israelis fire on extremists, the extremists respond. It goes back and forth. And October 7th was probably one of the worst responses, we've seen. But still, it was provoked by Israel's violence over the past 2 years. So there's no answer to this if both sides survive. If Hamas survives, if Netanyahu survives, there's no answer to this violence. And Bill, you and I, American taxpayers, we're paying for all this. All this fighting, all this war comes out of our pockets. We gave Israel $18 billion just in the past year and a half, in addition to the $3.8 billion we give them every year to do what they want. They have free health care. They have their education is much cheaper than ours. And, it just, to me, that money, I agree with that Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. She has been speaking out against the money we give to Israel, and Israel has turned against her. They've targeted her with their lobby and everything. And I agree with her. That money, all foreign aid, should go to our people here in the United States, and we should try to help these foreign countries without exploiting the taxpayers. But will it make a difference? No. Will any Arab countries step in and take over Gaza? Not as long as Netanyahu is there and refuses to recognize a Palestinian state. They need to establish a state with a moderate government. And Netanyahu won't do that because the religious parties in Israel reject it completely.
Would Israel lose any property with a Palestinian state?
Well, they would, because they would lose many of the settlements. And the settlements are the ones that Israel established in the West Bank, in the occupied West Bank. They occupied it in 1967. They then moved Jewish-only settlers into certain areas of the West Bank. They created armed camps that became little cities. Over the years, it's been how many years since 1967? We're talking 50 plus years. So this has been going on forever, and they keep expanding these settlements. Under the peace accord that Rabin had embraced, they would have eliminated the majority of the settlements and swapped land for land, so that they give in the desert of Israel, they give some of that land to the Palestinian state, and Israel would keep some of the major settlements that they can't, disband because they've been around so long. But the Israeli settler killed Rabin, back then, and we've been in a downhill plunge in the abyss ever since.
Well, do you think the United States should withdraw completely from the situation between Gaza, the Palestinians, and the Israelis?
I think we should, but you and I both know that Israel is the most influential country over American politics. No other country has as much influence. And I'm not saying control. It's not a control. The fanatics or the anti-Semites will say Jews control our government. No, they don't control our government. Israel has always done a better job of influencing and lobbying our government better than the Arab world. And but I believe they've gone too far. They've given millions away to members of Congress. They give you money as long as you support them. If you don't support them, they use money to fight you and get you thrown out of office. Nobody is as influential as Israel's lobby. So I don't see this a solution. As long as Netanyahu is prime minister, I don't care who is leading the Palestinians. He and his religious party and the Likud have always opposed two states. They want all the land, And I think they even want more of the land in Syria,
Well,
some
if we
parts of
get rid
Jordan
of
too.
Netanyahu, is there a chance that this plan that he has put forward could possibly work?
No, it's going to go revert to what happened in 2005. They withdrew their settlements and their soldiers because they were losing. Israeli soldiers were getting killed, and Israeli society was upset by it. So they withdrew. They surrounded Gaza. They turned it into an open air prison camp, and they were punishing. Whenever they wanted to, they could fire missiles into Gaza and do whatever they assassinate people. And the Gazans, Hamas, would then launch terrorist attacks against Israel. Israel would respond with what the Palestinians said are terrorist attacks.
I hate to
So
interrupt,
it wouldn't work.
but it doesn't seem to me like there's any solution to this problem whatsoever, as long as Netanyahu is in power, and also the fact that maybe Hamas, will come back once again to lead the Palestinians in Gaza. So that's no answer either.
No, I agree with you. And here's the thing about Hamas. Israel has killed its leadership. The entire structure of its leadership is gone. So what's left? What's left is an anger among people who have been what they feel victims of Israeli brutality and land theft and this rejection of who they are. So Israel says that's Hamas. But the anger against Israel isn't Hamas. It's a legitimate anger against Israeli policy. So what Israel does, very smart, they can spin whatever they want. They control the media reporting on Gaza. They don't allow independent journalists into Gaza. They only allow the journalists who are embedded and approved by them to go into Gaza. And if you are an independent journalist, the Committee to Protect Journalists has verified this. They will kill you. And they've assassinated some 120 independent journalists in Gaza. The Israelis have shot and killed them, according to the Committee to Protect Journalists, which is an American committee based in Washington and New York. So, both sides have to be removed. But I think Israel really doesn't want peace. It wants to control all that land. Israel's government, I should say.
Okay, Ray, that's enough for today.
Well, let me ask you.
I'm bothered and bewildered by the fact that we cannot come up with any kind of plan, it seems, to bring peace to the Middle East. I don't really know how we're ever going to do it.
Yeah, but in the end, doesn't it upset you that why don't we just throw this problem out and say, hey, you guys take care of it? But we can't, right? You and I.
That we cannot possibly do that. We've been with the Israelis too long.
Right.
There's a significant influence in this country in behalf of the Israelis. Although I will say this, it seems to me like I'm reading more and more about Jewish organizations losing their desire to really be upfront and support Netanyahu and Israel, not only in this particular situation, but in other situations throughout the Middle East. So maybe there is a weakening of support in this country in behalf of Israel. I don't know enough about the situation. All I know is what I read in the in the New York Times or in the Wall Street Journal. And I can read the same story in both newspapers, but you'd never know it was the same story.
And here's what's ironic about that, Bill, because you're like a lot of Americans. You don't know enough about the Middle East. I'm not criticizing you because we have other issues that we got to deal with. So our lack of knowledge, we just accept what the Israelis spin because they are better with media communications and public relations. The Arabs are not. I blame the Arabs for not getting their story out, their side of the story. But in the end, we need to get involved because this conflict is draining money from us and our country. And I agree, it's just it's depressing as an American. Forget about me being Palestinian. I don't want my taxes to go anywhere. I'm tired of it. It's gone on too long, but I don't see an end to it, unfortunately. So, All right, Bill, you have your column this week,
Yes,
which is
I do.
interesting.
Yes.
You and I were talking a little bit about this. I think it's fascinating looking back on when you first joined the Democratic organization. Go ahead and read your
Yes, my
column to our
commentary today,
listeners.
Ray, is on when I joined the Democratic Party of the late and great Richard J. Daley. It was first and foremost an organization that represented the hopes, dreams, and ambitions of the middle class and the working class. It wanted to achieve the American dream of opportunity for all. That meant the ability for each family to enjoy company finance, medical care, to earn a good salary, to own a home, send their children to college, and retire comfortably. Unfortunately, the party has moved a long way from there, embracing many radical left-wing positions and supporting countless left-wing policies. The effects of the Democratic Party turning its back on the middle class and working class began to show itself in the 1980s with the birth of the Ronald Reagan Democrats. Unfortunately, the liberal national leaders of the Democratic Party saw this as a once or twice phenomenon. Of course, we know today that was not the story. Many lifelong Democrats would never return to the Democratic Party after Ronald Reagan. Some became reluctantly back to the Democratic Party, but only to move on years later. Some left the entire voting process then, and I'm afraid to say they still do not get involved. As the years passed and the Democratic Party moved more and more rapidly to the extreme left, more and more Reagan Democrats that may have been left in the party have left it. Affirmative action, or as I call it, reverse discrimination, permitted by the United States Supreme Court, drove the last remaining Democrats into the hands of the Republicans. Set-aside programs, quotas, and out favoritism towards minorities by the Democratic Party emptied the Democratic Party entirely of former Reagan Democratic voters. The Democrats' disregard for religion and the part it played in building this land of the Pilgrim's Pride into the greatest nation economically, militarily, educationally, medically the world has ever seen are contributed significantly by the loss. The Democrats are lost. Democrats, excuse me, I lost my place over here, let alone lost the Democrats. But let me just say the Democratic Party has been very strong while supporting highly controversial cultural issues. And this has just emptied the Democratic Party of people beyond the middle class and the working class. And now the Democratic Party is faced with supporting a socialist for mayor of New York City. If he wins, he becomes the national face of the Democratic Party. If that occurs, I believe it will be the end of the Democratic Party as we know it in our land of the free and home of the brave. This is a capitalist nation. That's what has built this land of liberty and fortress of freedom into the economic, military, educational, medical, and charitable powerhouse of this planet. Individuals running on a socialist platform in this country has never won an election beyond the municipal election, such as in the city of Milwaukee, and that lasted only one term. Yes, people will say that Bernie Sanders is a socialist, and yes, he is, but he has always run on the Democratic ticket. He caucuses with the Democrats. So for all practical purposes, as far as Congress is concerned, he is a Democrat. Scholars have said many, many times in the past that socialism works as long as you have other people's money to spend. The greatest chance socialists had to elect a governor in our land of liberty was at the height of the Depression in 1935 in the state of California. And that individual carried the socialist banner, was defeated quite handily. The Democratic Party, once the champion of the middle class and the working class, has become its enemy. a tragedy for this nation and the Democratic Party. I am also sorry to say that the Republican Party, the champion of free enterprise, economic development, a reasonable, rational foreign policy, and a strong military, and a desire to spread democracy and capitalism around the world for the benefit of all mankind, no longer exists. It is now the Trump Party. And I believe that party and the Democratic Party will soon be parties of the past. And I believe and I hope and pray that new parties emerge that truly represent each and every American citizen, from the wealthiest to the poorest, white, black, brown, Muslim, Christian, you name it, everyone who legally lives in this country. I would like to see parties start to represent. That is the only way we can pull this country back together again, and once again be the lighthouse that the rest of the world can be guided by. Thank you.
Yeah, I always find your columns interesting, Bill, and they run in the Southwest News newspaper group and the Des Plaines Valley News, and they're very interesting. I agree with a lot of what you say, but I really think part of the problem is that the right has gone too far to the right, and the left has gone too far to the left. I know you. I think you mentioned Zoran Mamdani as an example of how he's kind of surfaced in the middle of this fight between the left and the right, and that you feel he's too far to the left. But I think that my feeling towards him are positive, because when you look, and we can talk a little bit about this later under my column that I was going to write, he talks about the things that we don't address sometimes, like, the poor, and even the middle class. Every side says they support the middle class. But the truth is, since Ronald Reagan, I don't know who really supports the middle class. I don't think the Democrats support the middle class, and I don't think the Republicans support the middle class. I think the Republicans support the wealthy and the rich, and I think the Democrats only support the poor. And they say they support, the middle class, but they're just as bad as the Republicans. A guy like Mamdani, I think, has a lot of programs to help the poor, to support the middle class, in my opinion, reading what he's proposed, and to put the burden on the wealthy, the 1% that dominates 90% of all our income. This world has really changed over the years.
Well, I have to say that you have great faith in the next mayor of New York City. I don't have that faith in him. I think he's an out-and-out socialist. He wants to have free this, free that. But Ray, you know as well as I do that nothing is free. Somebody has to pay for it. And until he shows me how many of these free programs that he wants to implement can be paid for equitably by all working, productive Americans, I have to be opposed to his being elected mayor of New York City. But as I say, if he is elected, he becomes the face of the Democratic Party. I believe that will be the end of the Democratic Party. I think once Trump is gone, the Trump Party will be gone. And I hope and pray there'll be a new party in each case that will truly represent all Americans, rich, poor, every ethnic group we have here.
Yeah, I don't think it would be the end of the Democratic Party. I think it would be putting it back on the rails if Mamdani is elected mayor, and I'm pretty sure he'll be elected. I know Trump is even getting involved in supporting the Democrat against Mamdani, and is fueling this idea that this guy's a radical.
You think that's going to help?
No, no, I don't.
Okay, so it seems to me that's political strategy on the part of Trump to help someone who is running against him, thereby helping him become elected mayor of New York City and become the face of the Democratic Party. Because I think Trump and I agree on this particular issue. It's not good for the Democrats to have him being the face of the Democratic Party.
Of course, the same can be said about Trump. it's not good for the Republican Party for Trump to be the face of the Republican Party, and yet he is.
No question about it. No question about it.
And all these lies, I'm tired of the lies from the White House, the president, regarding how the economy is good, people are getting jobs. We've talked about this many times. Costs are so high for products. And he says, oh, we're living the best we have. No, my income is 2/3 of what it used to be, mainly just in the last few years because of his policies, Biden's failure and his continued failure. So I'm not sure how we get past this bill. I'm concerned, and I think sometimes we need a radical change. Maybe Mamdani isn't the answer, but he's going to open the door to that change, I think. And we may see somebody smart from the Democratic side or the Republican side step up and give us the leadership that today we don't have on either side of the fence. They're both losers.
And I don't want the message to go out that I'm favor Trump. I've said this on countless occasions.
Right.
I didn't vote for him the first time. I didn't vote for him the second time. I didn't vote for him the third time. If somehow he manages to run again, I will not vote for him then either. But he has implemented very many things that I do support. But that's enough on that issue.
All right.
I gave my commentary for the day, and I appreciate what you had to say about it. We disagree on the next mayor of New York City, but we'll see what happens.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll do segment 2. We'll talk about the U.S. Census. And I think Bill and I both agree that there's a problem with what's being done at the census that's a little eye-opening that I wasn't even aware of. And then I'll talk about a little bit about the race to succeed Dick Durbin and why we're not really hearing enough issues. But I may talk about that Zohran Mamdani, some of his programs, that he's proposed. I was doing research on what he is. All right, I'm Ray Hanania.
I'm Bill Lipinski.
And we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back in segment 2 right after these messages.
Welcome to Al Shaba Restaurant at 2029 15 Mile Road in Sterling Heights, where you'll be treated to the finest in Middle Eastern cuisine. Enter into the exotic atmosphere of tantalizing aromas and enjoy our chicken or beef shawarma hummus, kebabs, specially seasoned Syrian-style beef burgers, babia fatouche salad, soups and sandwiches, plus desserts that include baklava, ice cream, and more. Just call in your order at 586-565-6661 or go to our website and place your order now at alshaba.square.site. That's alshaba.square.site. Then you'll see all there is to choose from. Try us today. You'll like us. We are located at 2097 15 Mile Road in Sterling Heights. Life for Relief and Development has now been rated as one of the best charities for humanitarian aid. Life's humanitarian projects span the globe, and Life is celebrating its 30th anniversary of providing essential life-saving aid to people and communities in 36 countries, regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background. Where there is life, there is hope. And when disaster occurs here or around the world, including being one of the first responders to the Turkey-Syria earthquake crisis, Life for Relief and Development rushes in to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. We are looking to help the earthquake victims, and we take 0% overhead on emergency donations. So please help improve these efforts. Learn more about our involvement to help the helpless and bring hope where it's needed most, and make your tax-deductible donation to Life for Relief and Development now at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493. That's 248-424-7493. The U.S. Arab Radio Network is the largest Arab and Muslim radio network in America, broadcasting throughout the Midwest region Monday through Friday on WNZK AM 690. U.S. Arab Radio features Arabic and English language programming on every topic, from health, food, and culture to government, politics, and legal issues. Listen live to U.S. Arab Radio in Michigan, Toledo, Ohio, and Windsor, Canada on WNZK AM 690. And in Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia on WDMV 700 AM. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok. So join us every day on the U.S. Arab Radio Network and check out our website at www.arabradio.us.
And welcome back to Two Guys on Politics. Our website is twoguysonpolitics.com. I'm Ray Hanania.
I'm Bill Lipinski.
And our topic right now is this kind of shocking news that you brought up, Bill, about the U.S. Census counting illegal aliens in the numbers. But in addition to counting them, right, they're using those numbers to impact how money is being dispersed and power and districts are drawn. That's wrong.
Well, Ray, I spent 22 years in the House of Representatives. I went through 1, 2, I think 3 redistrictings. I had no idea that we were counting illegal aliens in the census. I was absolutely shocked to find that out. Now, once again, it's President Trump that has brought that to the surface. I disagree with what the Republicans are trying to do in Texas at the present time. I believe that we should take the census once every 10 years. I think that we should live by that. Now, there's no law that says we have to, but that's the way it has been for years and years and years. I think we should continue that. But I was shocked to find out that it is theoretically possible that you could take all the illegal aliens in a state, somehow gerrymander the district to take in each and every one of them, so that whoever was elected from that district would be elected by people that were not American citizens, not really entitled to vote underneath normal circumstances in the United States of America. They could elect a member of Congress. It's incredible to me. And the United States Supreme Court a few years ago backed up that principle based upon what I don't know. But I certainly would like to see that issue brought before the Supreme Court once again. Why should illegal aliens be allowed to vote, in this, not vote, but be part of the census and have an impact on voting in this country?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, and just so our listeners understand, every time we take a census, every 10 years, and they count everybody up, it determines how many people will be set in a congressional district, for example. It also defines how much federal money goes into certain areas based on the population. And if 10% of a population isn't American and they're illegal, that they entered this country illegally, though their weight is being used to draw money into that district and take it away from other districts where they may not have any illegal aliens. And I think you pointed out something when we were talking about this issue earlier. Technically, I mean, theoretically, I guess, you could have a district that's all illegal aliens.
Absolutely.
You could draw that district around all legal aliens because you have their numbers and give them the money that would be appropriated to a congressional district out of our tax dollars for education, for health, for services, for cultural, for anything. That money shouldn't be going to illegal aliens. I think no one should. I can't go to Mexico. I can't go to Germany and just walk in and say, hey, I want to go to school here. I don't need your process of being vetted. I just walk in. That's what they're doing to our country. No other country will allow that. Mexico does not allow Americans to go into Mexico without being vetted, controlled. And if you sneak into Mexico illegally, you will be arrested and punished. And nobody says anything about illegal aliens in Mexico who are Americans. Now, I don't know how many Americans want to sneak into the country or not, but the point is the hypocrisy.
Yes, it is. It's just, and I'm shocked. And in the Supreme Court backed that policy up, and I don't know, what they hung their hat on. How it's just not just for American citizens to be subjected to something such as this. It's incredible to me. We have to get something done about it. I don't think it should be done now. I think it should be done for the next census. And I don't think the next census should be until its normal time. And, this gerrymandering, how badly the Democrats complain about gerrymandering. I'd like them to take a good look at the state of Illinois. Trump received about 47% of the vote in the state of Illinois in the last presidential election. There's only 3 districts in the entire state of Illinois that are Republican districts. Don't you think that with 45% of the vote going for the presidential candidate of the Republican Party, they'd have more members of Congress than
Probably 7, right? Yeah.
Just incredible. Yeah. But I don't know how you draw. I mean, if you can find some totally objective individuals in this country or any place in this world, let them draw the districts. But that you can't do that. It's always going to be a partisan thing. But in the past, Democrats and Republicans realized that it wasn't just the parties that we were talking about. We're talking about the country, and they always did things that I feel was best for the country, not was best for the party. Now it's what is best for the party. They don't care what happens as far as the nation goes, as long as we keep power.
Yeah. Now, gerrymandering is not a partisan issue. It's a Republican and a Democratic issue. Definitely. Because as you correctly point out, Illinois gerrymanders their districts also. I remember when they created a Mexican district, or I should say a Hispanic district, by circling the huge Mexican population on the north side around Humboldt Park, creating an umbilical cord that went south around the city, and then circling around, creating a circle around the Mexican American community, which is maybe 10 miles south of that Puerto Rican community. And they called that one district. Right. So that they could create a Mexican, or I should say a Hispanic district, where Luis Gutierrez ended up representing that for, 22 years. And then when Marie Newman, I know you're not a big fan of hers, because obviously she ran against Dan, who was a good congressman. We didn't always see eye to eye, but I always felt he was a very decent person. She won that election in the new 3rd district, I believe. And then after she won, the Democrats stepped in and divided that district in 5 different ways to divide up the Arab vote that was in that district, which supported Marie Newman and may or may not have given her the edge. And she was forced to run into a district with Sean Casten further west that included part of that district. But it was done, gerrymandered, to divide up, in my opinion, the Arab vote, which was concentrated. There should have been, if we did for Hispanics, if we do for Arabs what we did for Hispanics, they should have found the boundaries of an Arab district to allow the election of an Arab congressman or woman, but they didn't do that. So, this is a problem on both sides, but gerrymandering is a separate issue. The fact that I'm not against them counting as illegal aliens, I want to know how many of them are in our country. But to apply those to how they distribute benefits from the federal government is completely wrong. And people should understand that it's not just counting them. They're using that count to take money away from legal citizens from the federal government and giving that federal money to districts to support those illegal aliens.
Okay.
That's good. We're both in agreement on it. All right.
I'm talked out on this issue.
All right. I mean, it was pretty quick. That was a pretty fast issue. I want to go back to Zoran Memdani, but let's. I'm going to mention him in my latest column. I talk about how the 3 candidates, and they're all good candidates. Roger Krishnamurthy is a decent person, and just because I don't support him for Congress and I'm criticizing him doesn't mean I don't like him. I do like him. What bothers me about Raja is all the money he's spending on his commercials, and this is what my column is about on my website at Hanania.com, is that he doesn't talk about the issues. What is he going to do about rising costs for groceries, rising costs for insurance, rising costs for cars, rising costs to live? These are things that are so healthcare. These are things that are so important. I don't hear him talking about it. Now, maybe I'm missing something.
No, Ray, he's the underdog. Don't you understand? He's the underdog.
With $19 million,
right, for
10 times more than his two opponents, Juliana Stratton, who was put up by Governor J.B. Pritzker, who's the head of, the leader of the state of Illinois, which is ranked the 48th worst state in the union for taxation and services. Crime is getting a little less, but that's still not good enough. Pritzker hasn't done anything to make Illinois a better state. And Stratton, she's a nice person. I like her. She was a state rep for 2 years, but what is she going to do? I don't hear her say, this is what we're going to do. The only person I hear talking about addressing our needs is Robin Kelly, an African-American woman from the South Side. She's a congresswoman. I don't know if you ever met Robin Kelly, Bill.
I've met her, but I really don't know her at all.
Not in detail. Yeah, I've been looking at her platform. She must have 40 issues that she specifically addressed on her platform, on her website, not just for this election to get elected the Durbin seat, but for the past several years that she's been in Congress. She has been an issue-driven person. And maybe she has some faults, but when I compare her with Stratton and Raja, and I should call him Mr. Krishnamurthy. I don't call the others by their first name.
Yes,
he wants me to call. He wants me to, right?
Yes, absolutely.
When you compare her to the other two candidates, she is addressing the issues. They are not. And that's one of the problems with our electoral system. We're too easily influenced by the happy talk, the smile, the money that's spent to spin stuff. I would love if Raja would take that 19 million and come up with an answer to inflation. And what do they call it? The sizeflation. Like I go to the store and I buy a bag of chips. They doubled the cost of the chips, okay? But they reduced the content of the bag of chips by 20%. So not only am I paying double for the cost, I'm paying another 20% more. So it's more than double the cost. This is happening across the board. How do we deal with it? The cost of insurance is just skyrocketing. Our property taxes, are continuing to climb. And you want to buy a car, it costs almost as much as putting, half the cost of a house in some cases. You want to get a decent car, it's $60,000. It's just too much. And I think it's a problem, not just for me, but for other seniors in our state and our country.
That's why
I wish you would talk about it.
That's why we need an underdog fighting for us, a man that's been an underdog all his life. Raja,
right. We know his name. I just don't know his issues.
His commercials and the lack of issues. Yeah. I don't know him at all. I never met him, okay? But his commercials have turned me off. I don't know who I'm going to vote for in the primary or in the general election, but I know I'm not voting for him because I'm tired of hearing about him being an underdog in fighting. I don't know what he's ever done in Congress. I don't want to go. I shouldn't go down that road. I don't want to go down the road. The commercial tells me nothing, but he contends he's an underdog. And every time I hear that, I say, an underdog with $19 million to spend in a campaign. Who ever heard of being on television with commercials this far in advance of a Democratic or Republican primary?
Yeah, it concerns me when somebody has that much money and doesn't address the issues. And that is my concern. Like you, when I've worked with candidates, I always say, one, tell your story, let them get to know you. So what Raja's doing is step number one, you tell your story, but at the same time, also tell what are you going to do for the people? Because this race isn't about Raja. This is about the taxpayers and the people of Illinois. How do we help them? And if you don't address that topic, I think that is a big problem. And so far, he hasn't addressed that topic. Now, maybe he'll respond and say, oh, no, we're going to address that topic. But you want to know what? If you had an answer to the rising insurance costs, the rising healthcare costs, the rising grocery costs, all these costs, you should make that the priority first, because I would like you more, regardless of what your name is, if you have an answer to the problems that we face as seniors and as citizens and as working, middle-class Americans trying to pay our bills. You have an answer to that. I would love you. And if somebody makes fun of your name, I would trip them up. But right now, the cutesy commercial, I agree with you, Bill, it just turns me off by itself. It's hurting him. And I don't think he recognizes the problem and hole that he's digging himself in this election.
I agree totally and completely.
Now, let's go back, though, to Zoran Mamdani. And I'll tell you, because I have a column I have been putting together about him. He does favor the poor. There are a lot of poor people in New York, and he wants to address housing. He wants to freeze rent. New York has the highest rent.
Right,
Yes.
it has the highest rent of any city in the country. And I also believe that it's the richest city in the country.
Not for the poor. We're talking about, yes, it is the richest city. We see these wealthy people making hundreds of millions of dollars, living in condos and homes that cost tens and 20 million.
I threw you off the track. Tell us about some of these wonderful programs that the socialists that you're supporting has for the poor residents of New York.
See, I don't consider it socialism on your platform to say, let's help the poor.
He's the man that says he's a socialist.
Yes, but to me, I think he means socialist in the terms of helping society. I don't look at the word socialist that he used in terms of World War II, where we had to fight the socialists, in these other countries. And their goal, like with the Russian socialism, was basically and the communist socialism was basically to take everything away from everybody and only give it to the powerful. What this socialism is to equate the powerful from the past socialists with the wealthy, who are really suppressing and creating a new type of socialism for wealthy people. That's their idea. And I think wealthy people need to start paying more of what society faces. They owe it to this country. They're wealthy because of this country, and they need to put their money back into this country. And I think that's one of his principal foundations that he talks about. The wealthy need to pay their part. It's not enough that 1% of the population, they find ways with their money to protect their money and not pay taxes. Trump was a good example. There was a year where he barely paid any taxes. He claimed he made billions, and he didn't pay hardly anything. That's unacceptable. They shouldn't allow the laws to do that. So his programs also address early childhood and education. He's talking about making corporations that are really profiting to pay their share. When you look at the healthcare industry, for example, they've raised prices, but their profits are in the hundreds of billions of dollars. How is it that they can justify raising healthcare costs when their profits are so high? I don't understand that.
Capitalism.
Yeah, but then there's something wrong with capitalism if it allows a guy who's making $180 billion to run a company that doubles the cost for what they serve. That profit is a reflection on how they're exploiting you and me who pay into these healthcare. Same thing with the grocery industry, the pharmaceutical industry. He is a big proponent of healthcare for everybody. He wants to make sure everybody has affordable healthcare. I can't say no to that. I think it's important.
I can't say no to that either. I'm all for that free program of his, which of course somebody has to pay for, but it won't be poor people who are utilizing the program.
And middle class, he needs to, I think the one thing is he's focused too much on the poor, which I think is important. We have to help the poor, but I don't think he focuses enough in his agenda and platform on the middle class, because the middle class, I think, is what drives America. And I think we put too much emphasis. The left focuses on the poor, the right focuses on the rich. Nobody's focusing on us. So I think whether he's the perfect answer or not, I'm not sure. But I think he could bring this country to a point where we recognize we do need something better. So, but those are some of the programs that he's been, and he's a big critic of Donald Trump also. So that doesn't make him any different from a lot of the Democrats.
No, it's certain. Even a lot of the Republicans.
Yes, and my ideal candidate, as I've mentioned many times, is Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. I love her. I will support her blindly because she's fearless in standing up to the powers, the wealthy, the foreign lobbies. She wants to cut all that foreign money.
I hope she's enjoying her last term in Congress.
Well, the Israelis are going to go after her. They've already said they've targeted her. She's a MAGA Republican, but I'm going to tell you, she has a strong base and she's going to do very well, but we'll see. Anyway, any final thoughts, Bill, at all? We're at the end of the show here.
No, I have no final thoughts at the present time, Ray, but next week, I'm going to bring a lot of reasons why we should not be electing a socialist as mayor of New York City.
Well, listen, I think we should look at that some more. It's worth discussing. I'm Ray Hanania.
I'm Bill Lipinski. Thanks for listening.
And this has been Two Guys on Politics. Thank you. Thanks, Bill. We'll talk again next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Are you going to start a restaurant or grocery store soon? Do you need floor plans and designs? Call Najee Abood at 734-744-9796. Do you want to buy kitchen and restaurant equipment at discount prices? Call Najee Abood now, 734-744-9796. New Concept Products and Design, the trademark of kitchen equipment. 5% discount on all purchases of $75,000 or more. New Concept Products and Design, new location, 31185 Schoolcraft in Livonia. Learn more at www.newconceptproducts.com. Call Najee Abood, 734-744-9796.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Donna, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziyad.com. That's www.ziyad.com. Ziyad, quality products from our family to yours.
Okay, let's see. 3 orange folders, 2 blue folders, 1 white gym shirt, 1 box of 24 crayons.
Before you get started on that back-to-school list, get caught up on this one.
Measles, mumps, rubella vaccine, polio vaccine, chickenpox vaccine.
Protect your child from disease outbreaks. See a healthcare provider to get them up to date on vaccines and visit ivaccinate.org to learn more. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the Franny Strong Foundation.